The holidays are near, and with them comes a surplus of foods and of treats, and it's normal to overeat every so often. That's what Thanksgiving is for, right? But my first guest says that if you're feeling out of control around food more often than not, first of all, you're not alone, and second, there's most likely a reason. And that reason is not your lack of willpower. Studio 5 Health Contributor Miki Eberhardt joins me with 3 reasons why you feel out of control around food. This is a good one.
Yeah.
You got my attention in saying it's not about willpower, because that's an easy look in the mirror blame game that we play all the time.
Right. More discipline. Just stay true to what you're supposed to do.
Hold strong.
Yeah, hold strong. And that actually, like, that blame is misplaced when we do that, because we're trying to, it makes us feel flawed as humans. Like, why can't I stick to that? But the reality is usually the restriction and the rules that we're placing, that we're trying to hold true to and have discipline around, are actually the cause of the uncontrollable feeling that we get around food.
So it's not just saying, Brooke, be better, do better. It's actually getting underneath that entire sentence.
Yeah, and it's finding some of the reasons why some of the habits we may have in place
Yeah.
that we may not even recognize are the cause. So that's kind of what we want to dive into.
3 reasons we may be feeling out of control around food, and then of course you'll punch home some solutions for us.
Yes.
Let's start with you're letting yourself get too hungry.
Right. So when we skip meals, when we forget to eat, when we maybe choose less than we should in an effort to try and create a smaller body, the reality is our body knows. Our body knows that. We're not fooling anybody by saying, but I have willpower and I have discipline and this is my goal, body. Our bodies know, and they're amazing in the mechanisms that they have in order to help us eat. And so one of those is, if we are always undernourishing ourselves, we kind of get these hunger hormones that ramp up, and we get our fullness hormones that soften. And the reality, the result of that then is this feeling of, I may be seeking out and obsessing over food. I may be being preoccupied with food, thinking about it a little bit more. And so when I do eat, if I am too hungry and I'm ravenous, I'm gonna inhale everything that I see and eat way past the point of comfort to that overfull, oh, that didn't feel very good.
Which we've all been there. It's the don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry philosophy,
we all know that,
right?
Yes, right.
So it's pace, it's balance throughout the day.
Correct. The solution is really not to ignore those hunger signals, right? When we start to feel hungry, which for some people isn't a grumbly tummy, especially if you have tried to ignore hunger signals, you may need to tune into more, I'm feeling kind of tired, I may get a headache, I may get a little shaky, I can't focus very well. Those are also hunger signals, but we need to listen and eat promptly when we feel those. It's like, I compare it to, like, if you get the urge to go to the bathroom, we're not like, I gotta wait till 2, I gotta wait a little longer.
That's a good one.
Right, we just go.
Yeah. And when your body's talking to you, you listen.
Yes, and so hunger is the same physiological cue like going to the bathroom, but somehow we feel like, I have willpower and can ignore that.
I don't need that toilet for 2 more hours.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
So
a great
eating
analogy.
frequently, to your point, frequent 3 meals a day, snacks in between, trying to avoid those 4 to 5 hour long gaps between meals.
All right, reason number 2 you might feel out of control around food, you're not allowing yourself permission.
Right. So typically the foods that we may feel out of control around may be the very ones that we're trying to limit and avoid. And what happens there is that our brain, we can kind of convince ourselves, it kind of can create this Last Supper mentality in our brains where this is the only time I'm going to be able to eat this, combined with maybe the anticipation that a future restriction is coming, because this is a food that is bad, I'm not supposed to be eating it, but I am going to. And that can cause you to eat way more than maybe what you would really want.
This is a layered psychology. I mean, a lot is going on as I'm staring at that cookie or that, can of Coke or whatever it is.
Totally. It is. So the solution with this, Brooke, is that if we stop labeling, the cookie is bad, the salad is good, the can of Coke, bad, where's your willpower?
Yeah.
Where's the control?
Yeah.
If we stop those labels and instead we give permission, you can eat all foods when you want, whenever you want. What that does is that allows this space to open up, and you can actually get curious about how these foods actually make me feel. Do I like it? Do I want it right now? Does this make me feel good in my body? Am I gonna feel deprived if I don't eat this right now? Am I gonna feel satisfied if I do eat it? Allowing you to make the decisions for your own body rather than letting the restriction and the rules drive the choice, which also can drive the overeating with it.
So pick one of those more thoughtful questions
Yes.
in the moment. You have an example of this?
So I was thinking about this when I was preparing for this segment, because a couple weeks ago I had made these 2 pans of Carmelita bars, which cookie, caramel, deliciousness, and they were for like the neighborhood walkabout, right? One pan got eaten. I had a whole pan to bring home. And it sat, and a week later, I noticed there was a third of the pan left.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really interesting. This is actually a great example of habituation around allowing permission for food. Because it's not like, hey, at the Eberhardt house, we only have salad and apples, so nobody ate the Carmelitas. That's why they were left. No. It's because my kids know, I know, my husband knows, there's nothing special about that.
Yeah.
There will be other times we have treats. No one's feeling shame or guilt. No one feels they have to eat it in secret.
They're not tucked away. There's no huge portion control.
We can throw it out next to vegetables, throw it on your plate.
Yeah.
It's all neutral.
Yeah.
And so after a couple days of having it, guess what? Everyone's sick of it, tired of it. A third's left.
Yeah, they're
right?
good to go. This third point, I think, would probably hit the hearts of most women out there. We hear a lot about how food and emotions are hand in hand, or my eating patterns, rather, and emotions are hand in hand. And you say that's real.
It is real. And I think we go through the first 2 things first. Am I eating frequently?
Yeah.
And am I not, restricting certain foods?
Yeah.
If those things are yep, and I still am feeling out of control around food, it often can be we're using it for emotional eating. Now, eating because something feels good and as a distraction every once in a while, comfort food is that. It provides that. But if it's our main coping mechanism when it comes to dealing with emotions, that needs to be addressed. Because if I'm gonna go grab a hunk of chocolate and eat on it because I'm feeling lonely or I'm feeling sad about something, that might make me feel good for a minute. But the reality is, if I haven't addressed that underlying issue, which is that I need connection or I need joy in my life, the chocolate's not gonna fill it. And so that's where sometimes seeking out a great therapist can be helpful if we're not sure what the cause is or what I really am trying to cover or ignore. And the other part of that also, Brooke, is doing some self-reflection, which can be a tool with a therapist, meaning journaling, what's causing this, what are the triggers, what's happening around it. Also, a great tool can be meditation, where it can kind of you can quiet your brain for a minute, allow a little space between maybe an urgent feel to where that might lead to something that is out of control.
Just
eating.
a pause can help you feel more in control. Miki, thank you. Really insightful. As always, we will post this conversation on our website. If you want to review, if you found it helpful, look for that at studio5.ksl.com. Great job.